Inheritance tax doesn't make a great contribution to the exchequer. It's a very unpopular tax. But actually, my biggest concern is that it's extremely economically inefficient and distortive. Wouldn't it be sensible to get rid of it?
I think you've made a very good case for closing some of the loopholes, but not for abolishing it altogether. Now, I'm like you, I'm in favour of low taxes. I'm very much against punitive taxation on anything, certainly not on inheritance. But what I want is for everything to be taxed the same. Income, capital gains, inheritance, returns on investments, I think they should all be taxed the same. So, you know, if you inherit 100,000, that's taxed exactly the same as if you'd earned it. I mean, that to me is fairness.
OK. I mean, I actually had a proposal not dissimilar for that for Liz Truss when she became leader last year, to have at least capital gains tax and income tax at the same level, and indeed the VAT and corporation tax. The exemption I'd made for inheritance tax is that it is broadly already taxed money, so you are taxing it twice.
Yeah, but this is a fallacious argument, Jacob, because all money is taxed multiple times as it moves through the economy. I mean, you pay your nanny out of taxed income, your nanny has to pay tax, and then if she goes out for afternoon tea and crumpets, the tea shop has to pay tax. So everything is taxed multiple times as it goes through. But there's another very important point to make here.
This is different, because money that just sits in your account is not taxed again. It's taxed at a transaction level, but death isn't a financial transaction, it's an act of God.
Well, I think that's a very important point to make here also, is that so much of the money that is being inherited now has come in the form of capital gains on main homes, and that, as you know, is not taxed. So, you know, it's a completely non-argument to say that this is money that's been taxed before. So much of it has not been.
No, we may agree on the ridiculousness of some of the exemptions, but the main home one is particularly foolish because it discourages elderly people from downsizing. They need to keep as much as they can, effectively, up to £1 million, in the main family home to maintain the exemption. That can't be good policy, can it?
Well, no, it's not good policy, and I think George Osborne was quite wrong to introduce this, extra tax-free threshold for main homes.
It would have been better just to raise the threshold outright, if that's what you wanted to do. Would have been a much better, cleaner policy, rather than distorting the property market with this strange add-on.
Well, as I say, I mean, I'm in favour of taxing everything the same, which means that probably, strictly, I would abolish inheritance tax, but I would then tax the
recipient, which is what they do in Ireland.
Yeah.
The issue with the exemptions is that they're actually there for a very good reason, that if you take farmland, the farmer with a family farm, farming 200 acres, would be put out of business paying 40% inheritance tax. But it's very difficult to divide up the farmer owning 200 acres between the enormous estate owning thousands of acres. And therefore you create a false market in farmland, as one example, which you would get rid of, and potentially in AIM, in the alternative investment market, which you would get rid of if you got rid of inheritance tax, which would lead to a better allocation of capital towards more productive assets.
Well, I think the far greater distortion of land values, it gets through the planning system, surely. You get an acre of farmland might be worth £5,000. It gets planning permission, it's suddenly worth £1 million. I mean, that's a real big distortion. But when it comes to family businesses, there is a way where you keep a family business going and without it being destroyed by death duties, which is to incorporate it. And there, it has the business or the land, the farming business or any other business, it has a life of its own, and it's only the shares that are taxed, essentially.
But if you did that with a family farm, if you take a farm rather than a firm, the taxing the shares would still mean they had to sell the farm because they wouldn't have the cash to pay the tax.
Maybe small family farms, you can find some kind of exemption.
But then once you've got exemptions, you open up all the problems that I was talking about. That seems to me to be the issue, and that there are very good reasons for the exemptions. They're not just random exemptions. That's why it's so hard, you said at the beginning, just close the loopholes. That's much easier said than done.
Well, I mean, the far bigger distortion is through, it's through wealthy people deliberately buying farmland in order to avoid inheritance tax. Surely there's a system whereby you can allow a little exemption for small family farms, but exclude wealthy individuals who've bought thousands of acres just to avoid inheritance tax.
In your approach to a flat tax for everything, what rate would you like to see?
I would like to see a dual rate flat tax, 20 and 40% or thereabouts, whereas 20% on the first 50,000 or something, 40% thereafter, and I think that is a fair way of doing things. Of course, it will never happen because there's a whole industry of accountants and tax planners who will benefit from a very complex.
Who like a complicated tax code. That's a brilliant answer. Thank you so much, Ross, for joining me.